Welcome to Cooking with Carper. Today we're making fried chicken. Really nice dish, easy to do, that oftentimes has a lot of intimidation for people when it comes to making fried chicken, but it couldn't be anything simpler. Few simple, easy tricks to making fried chicken perfect every single time. So let's get started. The mise en place for this dish is super simple. From the left, we have our chicken. I have decided to marinate the chicken in buttermilk and various herbs and spices. There's salt, pepper. The spices that you see here on the table are also in my buttermilk marinade. For our breading, we're going to be using flour seasoned with salt and pepper, garlic powder, cayenne pepper, and paprika. And of course, we are frying today in a Dutch oven. You can use one of these, you can use a cast iron pan. Either way, you are looking to submerge the chicken in oil. Because we're working with oil, we need to make sure that we're monitoring the temperature, so we have our thermometer ready to go also. So let's go ahead and get our breading put together. Now the key to good frying is temperature control. If you've ever had bad fried food where it's greasy, the issue is that the oil is not hot enough to create a nice crust and then keep the oil from penetrating the food. So for this, we really want to make sure we're watching temperature. So I'm using vegetable oil. You want to use something for frying that has a high smoke point. Do not use olive oil for deep fat or fat pan frying. It's too low of a smoke point. And you're not going to get as good of a fry. So something like a vegetable oil, a peanut oil, a lot of people like for the flavor. Canola oil would also work just fine, or you can use a combination of all of those. So oil goes into our pan. And then we're going to place our thermometer in. This thermometer I have is a candy thermometer. I like this one specifically because it has this space between the bottom of my thermometer and the bottom of the actual metal. So it creates that space so that the thermometer or the read point is not actually touching the pan. That can throw off reading the temperature of your oil rather than the oil, we're reading the temperature of the pan. So you always want to make sure there's space. So that's why I really like this one. If you don't have one like this and you have kind of an old-fashioned one, make sure that it's clipped on the side of the pan in the way where it's not touching the bottom. So we're going to set that in. Like so. Turn our heat to a little over medium. You don't want to just blast this oil with heat because we're going to lose control of the temperature of the oil. So medium, high, bring that temperature up, keep an eye on that temp. One thing you don't want to do is just go super high, because if you start losing control of that temperature and you're not able to really hold it in one spot, that's when it can become more dangerous to be frying. If our oil gets too hot, so I just talked about a smoke point, there's a certain point where oils will start to create smoke off of the surface of the oil. At that point, once we start getting higher than that, then we reach something called a flash point. And that's when oil will catch on fire, and that's when oil and frying becomes very dangerous. Okay? So vegetable oil has a higher smoke point. We have less risk of that occurring, but we still want to make sure that we're monitoring our temperature. We are shooting for 350, 375 for our oil. Okay, that's a good range to kind of bounce back and forth. As we add food, it will drop the temperature of the oil. Do not just crank that dial trying to counteract that drop. Know that it's coming. Be confident to allow it to drop a little bit and allow the heat that's already there to bring the oil back up. With this set, we're going to go ahead and get our breading put together. For the breading, we're looking to coat half of a chicken. So this is the bird that I cut up in the fabricating a chicken video. The cuts of chicken that we're going to be cutting up are the legs, the thighs, and the wings. We're going to go with everything with bones for this particular dish. roughly 4 normal sized pieces of chicken and then our wings. So we're going to be making about a cup worth of breading. So we're going to start with 1 cup of flour, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of paprika, and lastly a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. When it comes to deciding the seasonings that you are adding to your breading, this is up to you. You can use what I've shown here. You can make adjustments or substitutions, or you can throw all these out and use all of your own herbs and spices that you choose. It's whatever it is that you want to taste and the flavors you enjoy. We're going to whisk this together. And now that's ready to go for our chicken. I'm currently waiting for my oil to finish heating up. We're getting really close. I wanted to show you quickly what my setup looks like. Again, when it comes to frying, one thing you want to really make sure that you're doing is being prepared. This process can go relatively quick, and there's a lot of things going on. You want to make sure you have everything ready to go. So I've got it set up from left to right in the way that I'll be cooking the chicken. So we have our chicken in our container, still in our marinade. Then we have our breading. So we'll go right from our marinade into our breading, into our oil. As the oil cooks, which will take roughly 15 to 20 minutes, we're looking for the breading to get nice and golden brown. We'll be flipping and turning the chicken relatively often to help make sure that that cook happens evenly. My tongs are ready to go. And then lastly, I have a plate with paper towels on it. That way it can drain afterwards. Oil's ready to go. We're sitting just about 370, so which is a good temp to get started. I've kind of dropped my temp down just a little bit closer to medium. That way we kind of manage. That way we can manage the temperature a little easier. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm going to open up my chicken. This first stage does tend to get a little messy. So what you're going to want to do is keep one hand for the wet, keep one hand for the dry. Okay? So this hand is only going to work in the marinade and bring the chicken over to the dry. And then from here I'm going to bread the chicken and go straight into the oil. Okay, so I'm going to move relatively quickly. You don't want to overcrowd the breading jar, or the breading bowl though. Okay, so give it a quick little stir. First leg goes in. Toss and coat. Make sure you get a good coating on there. Tap off the excess, and then when you place in the oil, place it down and then away from you. That way if you do drop it, you don't drop it towards you and then it drips and splatters on you. Next leg. Next leg goes in, again, closer to you, and then drop away. Be gentle, don't be scared of the oil. If it does pop, I know it's not going to feel the greatest, but we'd rather have it have a little pain rather than make a big motion and really hurt ourselves. Okay, I'm going to kind of get my tongs and slide the chicken over a little bit, make some room for a fry. And here we go. Now that has kind of filled up my pot, so I'm going to let that cook. I still have a thigh and some wings, so that will come in later. So I'm going to wash my hands and then start managing my chicken. Now you can see the chicken is cooking. Again, kind of move the chicken around a little bit. Now I set the timer for 15 minutes just to give me a base of knowing when to really kind of be watching for this. Our first batch is all done. You can see a nice, beautiful brown all over. Set that off to the side. Onto our paper plate and allow that to cool and drain, and then we will start working on our next batch. Here we have our second batch in. We have our wing or thigh, and then we have several wings. Our two drumettes, our lower wings. Again, make sure to kind of tend to them, give them a turn, allow them to brown evenly on all sides. Here you can see the result of our first batch. We have our two legs and our thigh. See, we have a nice golden brown on all sides, all even color. We're going to let that cool just a bit longer and then we'll dive in. Okay, we're going to finish up. Now's the time where we can get on our plate and we can see just how good our chicken turned out. So we'll grab a plate. We'll go with one of my legs. And we'll give it a cut so you can see what the interior looks like. I'll turn it so you can see. Really nice inside, real juicy. You can see it's real shiny because of all the juices that are there. That crust that we've gotten from the frying helps to insulate everything and keep it really nice. Now it's still a little hot with some steam coming off. We'll give it a taste. Really crispy. Because we managed our temperature of our oil, the chicken's not greasy. It has a nice crisp, lots of seasonings coming through. Really nice piece of fried chicken. Now we can easily pair this up with anything from mashed potatoes and corn to waffles to French fries. This has been Cooking with Carper.